Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Posted Up with Chris Haynes podcast here on Yahoo Sports. There's a lot to talk about, and we're going to get into it. And I have to bring my brother, Vincent Goodwill, my Yahoo Sports colleague, NBA insider extraordinaire, writer extraordinaire. I had to bring him on to help me dissect a lot. Vince, it's been a minute, man. How are you holding up?
Hey, man, the weather's starting to turn. Like I don't live in California like you do. So spring is springing, you know what I mean? So I can show my face out in public now. You know what I mean? We good.
Well, I don't know if it's ever a good time for you to show yourself in public, but I get what you were saying there. Vince,
I knew that was coming. I set myself up for that.
You set yourself up, exactly, man. So I had to show myself in public. Probably it's been since a week now, a week and a half. Those don't know, I had COVID. I got COVID All-Star weekend in Cleveland. Of all places, I get back home. Monday from the weekend. Fine, nothing. Vince, feeling fine. Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm good. No, Wednesday I started to get some sniffles, and the reason I thought I was getting some sniffles is because in Sacramento we got windstorms. I don't know why we get or how we get windstorms in California, but it happens here in Sacramento. So it's windstorms, and I left my window open because I like a little air to hit my room when I'm going to sleep. I feel comfortable that way. But it was a little bit too cold that night. And so I wake up, some sniffles, slight irritation of the throat, slight, nothing big, but my wife was like, you know what? Do a COVID test. And so I did one. Nothing, negative, fine. All right, cool. And so check this out, Vince. So TNT calls me and was like, hey, we got some people that went down. We're going to need you to do Tuesday and Thursday of next week, both Laker games. I'm like, cool. All right, I can knock that out, no problem. So the day goes on. It's getting a little bit worse. Like the throat is a little bit irritating. I'm getting some congestion. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking there's nothing. Mm-hmm. So Friday, I was like, man, I'm going to do this test again, man. I still wasn't thinking it was nothing. I did it. And it still showed that one line. You do those home tests. One line is negative, two is positive. So I did the one line. I showed one line. I thought one line,
two line. I thought that was pregnancy test.
So you haven't done the home COVID test, Mr. Goodwill?
I haven't had to. I haven't had to. Any COVID test that I've taken, it's urgent care, literally.
You want urgent care? Okay. Mm-hmm. We stacked up on those COVID tests when they started selling them to the public. Okay. One line means negative, two lines means positive. So I take it in the morning, wait 20 minutes, one line. I'm cool. Looking forward to my weekend. Wife gives me a call as I'm picking up my daughter from school in the afternoon around 3:00. Said, babe, you might want to go to the pharmacy and get tested. I'm like, why? She sends me a picture. It's one line and there's a line that's slightly showing. It's not all the way. Yeah, it's like, I'm like, okay. Long story short, go to the pharmacy, positive. So I was out 2 games that week and dude, I was miserable. Vince, you checked on me a couple times. That was about it. I was miserable, bro.
Miserable physically or mentally?
No,
what do you
not
mean?
Physically. Nah. Just being isolated in the room, man. I haven't done that since I had to do that when we had the
bubble.
Yeah, the bubble. But even the bubble, we were able to kind of leave and do some stuff. I was miserable, bro. I couldn't stand it, man. It was like I was claustrophobic, bro. It was miserable. So I got out, what was it, a week and a half ago? So I'm feeling good. I'm showing my face now, Vince.
I was about to say, did they bring you food to your room like you were Uncle Pete or something?
They did that. So my wife has gotten COVID. My 2 youngest daughters have gotten COVID. And every time we have a room, and we put them in our bedroom because our bedroom has a bathroom and everything. So we keep them in that room so you don't have to come out for anything. And so we got this thing called COVID services. Basically, is we'll come and give you food and drop it off at your door. We'll knock and then we'll run. You know what I mean? We don't want you to open it while we're close to you. And so COVID services was okay to me. It was okay. You know, I would have liked some better food from here and there, but it was cool.
Wait, did you just go on this here platform and say you wish your wife had made better food?
Nope, she didn't make it. It was all takeout. I would have preferred some different takeout food. That's what I'm saying. Nope, you're not getting me on something like that.
I wanted to make sure you didn't get yourself like that.
I wouldn't allow you to do me like that. So that was my first experience. That was my first time ever having COVID. I'm boosted up, all that stuff. I was in Cleveland, and yeah, I just would have expected it to happen. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen after a trip to Cleveland. So, anyways, after that, let's get to some Lakers stuff right now. Vince, the Lakers are going through it. Every time we talk about the Lakers, they're going through it, but they're continually going through it.
When are they not going through
it? Last time we talked about Russell Westbrook, and I hate, like, it seems like every time we go into the Lakers, we go to Russell Westbrook, but we kind of got to go there again. I was looking forward to seeing this matchup, Lakers-Minnesota Timberwolves, for no other reason than the Patrick Beverley, Russell Westbrook dynamic got going on. You saw what Pat said on JJ Redick's pod, right? He felt like Russ messed up his career when Russ had those remarks years back saying that Russ fooled y'all. Y'all think he plays defense? He's just running around doing nothing. Mm-hmm. That really tripped me out when I thought, like, when I heard Pat said he felt like that ruined his career at that stage because he felt like coaches and media and players believed that. And I was shocked to hear Pat say that. And we know Pat holds grudges. That's one thing I like about him too, because I'm kind of in that same boat. I do it.
Yeah, we know you hold grudges.
Yeah, pray for me. But that I was surprised. Were you shocked to hear that revelation?
I wasn't shocked that it bothered him. I was shocked that he said it. Because usually, as you know, guys don't like being vulnerable in that space. I'm not talking about, Michael Beasley and the sit down that he had with Brian Clark and those guys. That's a different level of vulnerability. But something while you're in it and you don't want to give your opponent sort of a key to your psyche. That's why I was so surprised when Russ told everybody the Westbrook thing bothered him. I'm like, dude, don't you realize that you are opening the door for not just fans to clown you, but for other players to get on your ass too? Like, I was a little bit shocked. Now, for Pat is a different type of dude because Pat doesn't come from that 5-star blue chip background. You know what I mean? He had to develop a veneer of toughness and tough skin. And I can't listen to nothing nobody say. So I was a little surprised that he said it out loud because he had been told basically from, I know some people he grew up with in Chicago as far as NBA players who he came up with. And that's not the Pat Beverley publicly. You know what I mean? But I'm not surprised on this part, Chris, that when the rabbit got the gun, it was a different ball game. that he was going to make sure that whatever happened, he was going to get his get back. And he got his get back. Now, Karl Anthony Towns, that was a little weak. He didn't have to do that. It was funny. But he didn't have to do it. Pat Beverley, when it's petty on the line, you can be Petty Pendergrass, Petty LaBelle. I don't care. It's all in the form of competition. So if Russ can dish it out, he's gonna have to be able to take it. And Pat Beverley wants to give it to you.
Oh man, he did last night, and I think Cat and those guys, what they're doing, they're kind of embracing the mantra that is of Patrick Beverley, embracing his personality, going along with it. I wouldn't be surprised if, look, they felt like as a team, we got to stick with Pat. We saw what he said on that pod. We got to stick with Pat. So we're going to follow his lead. And I was surprised to see him do it, but whatever. I don't care, man. It's basketball. I'm hoop. Like, I've always felt.
Chris, this is my thing. If it's all about ball on the floor, if it's nothing personal, we ain't talking about nobody's families. We ain't talking about nothing crazy. We talking about you and your play. Oh, everything's fair game to me. If you don't got a left hand, it's fair game. If you can't shoot, it's fair game. Like, since when, and I know we're supposed to be a more sensitive, evolved society, but competition is competition, man. And hardly anything's, you know what I'm saying? Now, if it's Kevin Garnett and Carmelo Anthony, all right, cool, that's a different ball game. But if it's strictly on the floor, no, everything's fair game, man.
Vince, Westbrook's confidence is shot. Like, he's really dealing with something. All of these elements of fans heckling Westbrook, social media, his wife getting it on social media, like this is at a degree that he's never experienced before. And I think, Vince, a lot of players think like because they're stars elsewhere, they produce for numerous years. Westbrook's case, top 75 player, but it's a totally big difference when you're playing in OKC, Houston, Washington, opposed to playing with the Lakers when they're in championship or bust mode. On top of that, playing with LeBron James. Totally different. Everything, those 4 or 5 turnovers you used to average all the time that nobody looked at, that nobody even brought up because you were getting triple doubles while winning 50 games. Well, those 5 turnovers are being highly scrutinized and they're highly visible playing for the Lakers. On top of you not playing up to par. Vince, I don't know if I made a mistake. I just did it. I went on Lakers Spaces after a Laker game. Ooh. I didn't know. Well, listen, I knew because I was in there for 10 minutes before they asked me to come on stage. But for 10 minutes, Vince, look, those first of all, they're crazy. They're crazy. I enjoyed them. They're crazy as hell. I went in spaces just to listen, just to hear what they were talking about. And these spaces are basically just anti-Russ spaces right now. And basically it's like you're at your family's house. Everybody's just talking. You know, I got my daughters up in here, they're friends, so I can't say what I'm saying. But you know what I'm talking about. And they asked me to come on the stage, Vince. What do you do? Let me ask you, Vince. I'll go in there. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was just finishing my workout. I had a late workout. And I'm like, I want to hear some entertainment. So I jump in. And I'm hearing my entertainment. Then they asked me to come on stage. At first, I was like, man, I'm just going to pop out of here. I don't want to jump in there. But I was like, nah, they asked me. I'm like, they see me. Damn. Let me get on stage. I went on. I wouldn't say I regret it, but it probably wasn't the best decision. What do you do in that situation, Vince?
Get a burner account.
Hey, I'm kid you not. I kid you not. I do have one. And Lakers Spaces, they gonna probably get mad or probably try to investigate. I do have one, and intentionally I do use that burner to get into those spaces just so I can just listen. Because you don't want to be brought on stage all the time. Sometimes you want to listen to the fans' perspective, and that's a lot of times that's how I get coverage ideas. But I do have one. I do have one.
I don't have a burner. I guess I haven't reached your level of fame to where if I went on the spaces, somebody would call me to the stage. I guess, you know what I mean? But
hold on, time out. So you don't go into NBA spaces and they call you up to the stage? How often do you go into NBA spaces?
I haven't gone into. I stay away from that.
Okay. Well, I understand. I guarantee you, Vince, you go into an NBA space where they have 200 plus, and look at Lakers spaces after Laker games. They have 800 plus people in there. You go into that space, and then they see you because you verified. It's not very many verified people in those spaces. They see you. You're going to get called to the stage, and what are you going to do? Just decline and continue to listen? Duck out, or you go on stage?
Oh, I'll just duck. I'll wind up if I'm in that space. I just duck out before We're like, oh, y'all said y'all called me. I was already gone. I didn't even know that y'all had even said something. Next time, y'all. Next time, I'll kick you with y'all.
Though. I needed some content. I didn't have anything to do.
So the Russell Westbrook conundrum. It's a bunch of different things, right? It's playing for the Lakers. It's playing next to LeBron James. It's no longer being the man at OKC. It's being on your 4th team in 4 years. It's your game declining. All of those things are crashing down at the exact same time. And here's the crazy part. Chris, me and you were in different markets, I think, the year that Russ won MVP. Of course, we were in different markets, right? And I remember we were running into each other, and I was like, Chris, you gonna vote for Russ for MVP? And you was like, man, I don't know, man. It's, LeBron and Steph and
it was James Harden at
Kawhi,
that point.
James Harden, right? It's all these other guys. And we both had the same person come to us and say, what would it take to get your vote? And I said, it's gonna take 50 games. Because this accumulation of stats ain't it. And now you're seeing the back end of that, because that's how Russ defined himself. He defined himself by saying, I got all these triple doubles, not necessarily playing winning basketball, not developing his game to the point that when he lost a step, he would be able to make up for that by having a more refined jump shot, that being able to be in a better spot up shooter, that being able to be a better defender. He acted like he was going to be Peter Pan and be like this forever. And that's not how this is going to work. And I think he underestimated the scrutiny that comes with playing on LeBron James's team. While LeBron James is playing the level of basketball that he's playing, I think if LeBron has started his slippage a little bit more, I think this year would look totally different, even if the record stays the same. You know what I mean? But because LeBron is playing reasonably well, almost leading the league in scoring and everything, you can see some slippage athletically with LeBron, but he's able to make up for it in other ways. But if LeBron has slipped a little bit more, you could easily justify that's why the Lakers being bad. But Russ, why you here, you playing every night, and you throwing the ball into the stands, and you shooting these air balls. He ain't used to that. And here's the question I got for you, Chris. Here's a real question I got for you. We talk all the time about mental toughness with athletes, right? We talk about Kobe Bryant being mentally tough. We talk about Michael Jordan being mentally tough. We talk about LeBron being mentally tough. Because we've had the conversation about Ben Simmons, because we're now having a conversation about Russell Westbrook, even if it's not defined as mental health, we're basically kind of saying that it is. Can you have the conversation about the opposite of mental toughness in the context of competition? If you're saying this guy fights through whatever he's going through to manufacture a good game, a great game, a good season, whatever, what can you say on the opposite end that isn't insensitive to the quote-unquote mental health conversation? Or can you not say anything at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's a good question. I broached this subject with DA, Marcus Thompson, and Black Trey on their podcast a couple of days ago. The tennis player, Mr. Goodwill.
Naomi Osaka.
Naomi. She had a incident where somebody was heckling her, and she wanted to stop the match and address that fan right then and there. The ref didn't let her. Then after the game, she lost that match. After the match, she addressed the fan and said, look, I've been heckled many times before, but this one stuck with me because this is a situation where this location was where Serena Williams had her incident with the heckler there. And it made me wonder, like, initially I was like, are we getting too soft to where any form of heckling is bullying or abuse? And then I took a step back, Vince, because I'm looking at the different era we have. Now, I know we talk about social media and its impact on society. But Vince, I think the guys that we look at as mentally tough, the guys that we grew up watching in the 90s, and some in the 80s, whatever, we view them as mentally tough, right? Would those same guys be considered mentally tough in this day and age? Because Vince, before, you would just get heckled in the arena. You go home to your family, you go home to your greatest life, and you enjoy your life. You didn't really get heckled. You didn't really get called out your name. There was you as a player or individual, and even as not even as a player, as a successful person, you didn't really have a pulse. You kind of knew, but you didn't have a real significant pulse on how do people feel about me? Because there was no social media. And I talked about on their pod, there's about 5 major social media accounts: Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. If you got millions and millions of followers on each platform, and they all have an avenue to get to you, and your phone is your baby. Everybody has a phone. It can get to you. We're in a 24/7 news cycle, not just on television, but online. It gets to you. Charles Barkley, I was talking to him in Cleveland. He was like, bro, I'm not getting a social media account. He said, because somebody said something to me, I'm going to cuss their butt out. You know what I mean? Like, so just imagine Chuck with a social media back then. Would we view him the same way? He knows his limitation. And I think social media is just forced upon us where we have to kind of integrate it into our lives and into our workforce. But not everybody is adapt to handle that and still perform. And a person like Westbrook, not to just stay on him, but a person like Westbrook, Vince, you can handle it when everything is going good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're in a market where 50 wins is deemed a successful season. You could go and then you for 10 years you've done it this way, and then you think you can do it that way in other places. Like Russ made a comment a few weeks ago saying, "Hey, you know, these losses they're bad, but you know, I go home with my family, man. It's a bigger calling for me, and you know, I just want to help people, you know, succeed in life, and that's my call, my purpose." Great perspective, Vince. But Laker fans don't want to hear that. You've been brought here to raise a Raptor, to raise a banner in the Raptors. That's why you've been brought here. You can save people, save lives off the court at the same time as bringing the championship. They don't want to hear that. And so that's something he has to adjust to. And I think social media and everything, just the way people attack. Vince, I said it on the other pod, man, everybody needs to be verified. Celebrities, give them 2 check marks or whatever. Verify everybody. Because I have a problem with it too. I got a problem from a man, just the way we were brought up, Vince. The way we were brought up, man. Like, you can't just talk. I wish, again, my daughters are here, and she got friends here. It's spring break over here, so I got kids here, 10-year-old kids. So I can't say what I want to say, Vince, but I want you to get the gist of it. We couldn't talk that stuff to any and everybody, man.
There's got to be consequences.
It's going to be consequences, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's consequences to saying that, bro. And we understood that. And that's the way we were raised, bro. And if you said things, you knew to accept whatever was going to take place, what was going to happen. Now I think people, and I'm disappointed, and I'm talking to mainly guys, I know women do it too. I'm disappointed in a lot of guys that were raised like how we were, just going anonymous on social media and just calling anybody, everybody out their name, saying stuff they would not dare say to that person in real life. I have a real problem with that. Like, I got a problem with you as a man doing that, bro. I expect that from the younger generation. But I'm talking about, it's guys that's our age and older doing that stuff. You know you wasn't raised like that, man. I have a problem with that, bro.
Well, social media makes people braver, right? Like, it's crazy, and who knows if we'll get back into the locker room, and that's a whole other conversation, you know, that, you know, Adam Silver needs to be taking heed to. But even, I hate to go back in our day, because Chris, we ain't that old. But
we not, but you know.
But we ain't that old. But there was a decorum that if you wrote something or said something,
there you go,
you show your butt up in the locker room the next day. You like the
explain
way
that to people, Vince. Explain that to people. People don't know that. We take a little inside our profession.
Yeah.
Now.
So if you write something about a player, be it a column, be it a news story, or whatever, something that's sourced, your own opinion, whatever, and it's not speaking positively of a player, right? It's going to wind up in the newspaper the next day. Headlines, everything else, you know, is going to reach said player. Anybody that says that they don't read, that they don't pay attention, they're lying. All right, for one, let's if nothing else, just know that they see and read everything, or they have somebody seeing and reading everything. But the decorum is, if you write something that day, you'd better show your behind up in the locker room the next day. You can't run from what you wrote. You have to show up, even if it's because the locker room isn't public. You know what I mean? The locker room is not a public place per se. There'll be cameras in there sometimes post-game and everything else. But if you write something and there's a game the next day, you show up in that locker room the moment that those doors open. And if somebody's got to have they say with you, they have they say with you. Because you had your say in print. You had your say in that day's paper. Even if it's not your opinion, it's something you put your name to. It's something that you believed enough in the information, or you believed enough in your opinion to write it. You show up the next day, and that player may have his say with you. That player may not want to talk to you, but that player may want to cuss you out. And sometimes that's happened. Chris, we done both been on it.
Yep.
And what I'll say is, I have my say, you have yours. And as long as you won't cross one of two lines, and I'm quite sure if anybody with a little bit of common sense can figure out what those two lines are, we good. I done went back and forth with a player. I done had players sort of step in and say, hey, that's enough between both of y'all. I done had PR people step in and say, hey, that's enough. You know, that type of thing. And at the end of the day, maybe me and that player never talked again. Maybe me and that player reconcile 7 years later. But you have that say, you show up the next day. A lot of people, maybe because of the culture, they don't want to show up the next day. They ain't trying to show up the day before, mind you. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a level of accountability. And to your point, you're right about the whole thing about so much information overload and all of that. But I will also grant you this, because I talked to Grant Hill last week. And I asked Grant Hill about the pressure of being, quote unquote, he was like the first guy that was tabbed the next Michael Jordan. And he said something to your point. He said, you know what? If I didn't read it in the Detroit News or Detroit Free Press or USA Today, I didn't know what was being said. I don't know what other people were saying about me. In that time, it was a much smaller world. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Social media now makes it a bigger world, but fans back then heckled guys. There was the dude, Robin Ficker, who heckled Michael Jordan, who was reading passages out of the Jordan rules, and Mike had to hear it. We've both been in the stands when LeBron has been heckled, and people say some really foul things to him that they probably wouldn't say if they were 2 inches away from him. You know what I mean? If you can say something that's 2 inches away from a guy, go ahead and say it. But be prepared for the consequences. If the consequences wind up being you catching two to the jaw, so be it. But make sure you know, and I'm not condoning physical violence, but I'm simply saying, if you're going to speak it, and Chris, when I wrote my recent Kyrie Irving column, you know how many Brooklynites or what's those dog Avies or whatever, you're sheep for the government or calling me out my name or something like that. Say it directly to me. If you say it directly to me, I'll shake your hand. But you're not going to say it directly to me, even though I'm not the most physically imposing dude, but there's the thought that something could happen. Act accordingly. That's all I got to say. Act accordingly.
That's where I want to get back to society. That's why I would like social media platforms to like see if there is a way. Like, I don't think there's all these apps that we use, where it's Venmo or whatever, in order to start the process of signing up, they have to verify that you are indeed you. So there's a process. Send them an ID, send them whatever. That's not hard, but I know these social media platforms don't want to do that because it would limit the amount of users they have.
Absolutely.
So I get it, but look, man, like at a certain point, I am looking at this new generation, this younger generation here, and I'm seeing that this does have an effect on their mental psyche. And people are, and so, yes, heckling has always been around and prevalent in arenas, in stadiums, but now it's taken on a life of its own 24/7 in social media. So even if you as a player, you can say, hey, go ahead and hide under a rock. And say you don't see it, you can't get it. It's going to reach you. You got fans, you got your own people that can tell you, hey, you should have such and such wrote. Like it's there, man. I just want people to be held accountable, and I just want a message. I'm talking to the men. Message as a man, as a grown ass man. Like, really, come on now. That's not the way we were brought up, bro. Like
some people were. You are. Chris,
no, I understand. Well, I'm preaching. Yeah, I'm preaching to them who were not raised like us, who are like, bro. Like, let's be real. Like, even if I wasn't a media member as a man, I'm not jumping on social media, calling players out their names and doing like all this type of disgusting stuff, man. Like really, there's a line that you do cross, and I don't think Westbrook is a line that's.
I was about to say, I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about saying those things that you know would elicit an aggressive response from that person if you said it to them face to face. You know what I mean? Like, stop. Like, be real. Let's be like, your point can be made on social media without you going over the line, man. Like, let's be real. Be a man. That's all I ask you. Men, what's I don't mean to use Donald Trump. I forgot, what's Donald Trump's slogan? Let's make men men again. Can we do that, Vince?
That's a very very dangerous line you are treading there, Mr. Haynes. That will be deleted.
Did I cross the line, Vince? Did I cross the line, Vince? I'm talking about crossing the line and not crossing it. I crossed it.
You talking about you make men men again. We talking about toxic masculinity and going back to the Stone Age. The comments made by Chris Haynes belong to Chris Haynes and Chris Haynes himself. They are not reflective of Vincent Goodwill or Yahoo Sports.
Look, you protect your employer too. You protect the employer. Hey, I'm talking specifically and entirely on the way we approach each other, the way we conduct each other and talk to each other. That's strictly what I'm talking about, man. Let's segue, Vince. Stephen Curry is out at least until the playoffs. Sprained ligament in his left foot. If you were to tell me, Vince, that the Warriors are going to play the Celtics and Steph's foot or ankle was going to get rolled up on by a Celtics player, I would have said, shut up, stop right there. I would say this. What quarter did Marcus Smart do it? That's what I would say. Don't you have to finish? They don't have to finish. What quarter did Marcus Smart do it? And I saw the replay. I wasn't watching the game live. I saw the replay. Bro, I'm sorry. I saw Steve Kerr go at Marcus Smart. I saw Draymond, and I do appreciate Draymond's take. Even though I disagree somewhat, it's being called a dirty play. Steve Kerr thought it was a dirty play. Draymond said he wouldn't call it dirty. He would call it unnecessary. Bro, we're all taught. I played college basketball. That was a stint of my basketball career. But you've all taught from grade school, loose ball, dive. Loose ball, dive. If anybody's going to dive, it's going to be Marcus Smart. There was nothing intentional, dirty about that play from my eyesight.
Was it a dirty play? I don't think it was dirty. Dirty implies intent. I don't think it was intentional. Could it have been deemed as unnecessary in today's game where you can't run through a screen, right? If you're a defender, you can't run through a screen anymore. If someone had the nerve to try to set a screen on you and you didn't see it, you had the right to blow them up, right? You can't contest jump shots a certain way anymore, right? You can't swing elbows after rebounds in traffic, right? So unfortunately, with the way of today's game is being played, yes. But that's not out of character for Marcus Smart. If you're telling me that something happens, then I have to look at that person's athletic character, their competitive character. Marcus Smart is a go hard. Marcus Smart is a dude that only is effective but when he plays hard. And when you look at the play, Steph was trying to bend down to get it.
Yeah.
He was bending down to get it. But they say low man gets the ball. Whenever it's a loose ball, it says low man gets it. So whether that's Dennis Rodman, whether that's Marcus Smart, whether that's whomever, the ball is fair game. And not to say you protect yourself at all times. This ain't boxing. But you can say it was quote unquote unnecessary. And Draymond Green he would have been very hypocritical had he said anything other than that, because he's had a history of, at worst, at best, unnecessary plays. At worst, we can call it something else. So you also always have to consider the messenger. It's always the extent of the injury, and for the NBA's purpose, thank goodness that it wasn't worse for Steph, because not having Steph in the playoffs or not having Steph close to 100% is not good for the league at all. Like, we all understand the value of Stephen Curry in these playoffs. But I want to say, Chris, I sit on both sides. I completely understand where Steve Kerr's coming from. I feel like that was a bit overboard. But I understand people who say the game ain't being played that way anymore because we've tried to legislate that type of toughness, that type of recklessness out of the game. It was reckless, but there's a place for recklessness in competitive basketball. That's just how it goes. And sometimes guys get hurt.
Yeah.
I didn't get on Solomon Hill last year when he ran into LeBron's ankle and it cost LeBron, a big chunk of his season. I'm not gonna do it here. I'm going to be consistent.
Yeah. Like, again, we're talking about today's time, today's world, we're always talking about the difference between now and how we watched it growing up. And, Patrick Beverley is one of those players as well.
Mm-hmm.
Love him or hate him, he's one of those players as well who's, if the ball is loose.
I thought that play that he did with Russ, those 2013 or whatever, or 20,
yeah.
I thought that was a dirty play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too.
You know what I mean?
Well, I do too.
When someone's going to call a timeout, you never get the ball. You never steal it from someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
he
different.
was going to call a timeout and you ran through him. That's different than a loose ball. That's different than that's a free ball. Somebody got to go get it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Live ball.
Live play. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you. And it's unfortunate. And Marcus Smart is catching heat. But I looked at it numerous times. I didn't see anything dirty about it. Like, look, at the end of the day, man, again, let's get back to what's the slogan again?
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
What's the slogan?
Make basketball tough again. That's what we're going to say.
There you go.
Make basketball tough again.
Tough again.
Because it's getting soft.
Yes.
It's getting soft. Chris, have you noticed we get all these 50-point games in the past couple weeks and scoring has gone way back up again? Remember when the start of the year we had point of emphasis and we're going to allow more physical play? Now we got James Harden going back to the line 1,000,000 times a game and everything, and Trae Young going back to the line 1,000,000 times a game. No shot at no shade to them. But if we're going to say we're going to make basketball tough and we're going to give defenses a chance, let's actually give defenses a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten out of hand. So
and if you don't give defenses a chance, you wind up having Marcus Smart dive for the ball because he doesn't feel like he has a fair chance in any other setting. Because if I can't touch Steph or whatever, and I got to get this ball, this is the only chance that I got as a defensive player to make a play. The NBA could very well be just as responsible for Stephen Curry's injury as Marcus Smart.
Putting it on the league. I like it, Vince. I'll get an email from Tim Frank about this tomorrow. Quick. No, you might get it during this podcast because I think Evan may text him right now and tell him what you said. So,
hey there, big guy.
Oh, man. So, let's segue to your former neck of the woods, a place you love so dearly, the mere 3 months that you spent there in New York. Kyrie Irving doing his thing.
Steph for a year and a half.
It was like 3 months.
It felt like a bid.
Of all places, New York feels like a bid. Wow. Of all places.
You ever seen rats on the subway, Chris Haynes?
I have seen rats on the subway, and I would think a person being from Detroit would have seen his share of rats before.
No, we don't have rats here, bro. Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't get rats here. All right, we ain't never seen a rat that looked like a squirrel. All right.
What are these rats in your apartment, Vince?
Hell no.
Your apartment?
No, they're on the subway. They're on the subway.
Okay, then. All right, then. You fine. Drive there. You want to get on the subway? Drive. Go ahead and drive, man. See you in deep.
Spoken like somebody who ain't never really spent time in New York talking about drive.
I love New York.
First off, New Yorkers can't drive. Secondly, you can't park anywhere. There is no point in driving anywhere in New York City. All right?
I love New York, man. That's one of my favorite.
I love it to spend 2 days. You spend 2 days there. You take in the restaurants. You go. Chris, I ever told you about my first night in New York? Before we go,
tell me about it. Go ahead.
First night in New York. In corporate housing, like on 36th Street. It's like a really, really nice place. Nicest apartment I ever lived in. Really high ceilings, big windows, across the street from the Empire State Building. That made for some great visiting experiences. Okay.
Yes.
So my first night there, barely got any. You got enough luggage that you can basically carry. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go down the street to this Five Guys and get some dinner. All right, cool. I'm tired. I've been on the plane. So I'm walking down the street, and it's this squirrel. Now, mind you, I'm 2 blocks away from Madison Square Garden, so I'm in a really, really nice area of New York City. Walking down the street, and it's this squirrel walking down the street with me. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's a heavily populated part of New York. It ain't like it ain't no walking down a dark alley. It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. The squirrel looks at me, looks back. I look over at the squirrel. I noticed it wasn't a damn squirrel. It was a rat who was not at all concerned that I was walking in the same direction as him. So guess what I did? That's your piece of real estate, bro. I don't want five guys anymore. Because if you're that comfortable walking next to me, not being the least bit worried, you can walk into any establishment there. So I turned around and I was hungry for the rest of the night.
Oh, so you didn't eat because of that rat, huh? I thought the rat was going to jack you or something, man.
No, I ain't going to get jacked. No, not jacked by a rat. I just don't want to find one in my fries. Thanks, New York.
Man.
Yeah. What were you about to say about the Brooklyn Nets or the New York Knicks? Which one? You gonna say something about one?
So we going from the rat to Kyrie. That's not like that's what you leave me with. Like that wasn't my plan, ladies and gentlemen. That wasn't a segue. You know what I mean? Like, I guess some people would agree with that, but whatever. We're talking about Kyrie here in Brooklyn. The guy went off, had 60-pointer. Look, last week. I was looking at it. I didn't tweet anything about it, but it was I don't even know if you tweeted something about it, but it was the game that Kyrie went to Barclays as a fan, spectator.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting all these like step-by-step tweets on what Kyrie's going to do. He's going to go in and he's going to buy his own ticket. He's going to sit front row. And after halftime, he's going to go in the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, it was like all these, like, they were clearly trying, like, the message was clearly being put out there that, look how stupid this is. Y'all report everything that I'm going to do and how stupid this is for me to be in here in this arena. I could be around my teammates, sit courtside. I don't have to have a mask on, but I can't play. And I just thought it was mockery of that whole thing. I didn't like the way that played out. I get the point, though. I get the gist of it. So, Kevin Durant, after the 60-point game, criticizes Mayor Eric Adams and New York City mayor and says he's looking for attention. Backtracks a little bit a day later, 2 days later.
In a statement.
A statement. Yeah, everybody's trying to do their job. Whatever. Okay.
You know Kevin Durant pretty well. You know Kevin Durant ain't one to backtrack. But go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you're dealing with a politician now. So you're not, there's one thing to call out a player to say they're looking for attention. Another thing to do a politician's help that you really need. So I don't think that would have bode well for him at all. I don't know if the statement helps him, because the statement, he really didn't apologize, but he backtracked a little bit. Anyways. I'm exhausted, Vince. I'm exhausted with that I'm tired of it. I don't care. Like the brother, like nobody's denying that. This is my thing. I think most people's take is he should be playing. He should be playing. He can do all this. He should be playing. What about the other take there is, well, maybe he just shouldn't be in the arena.
I got one.
If he can't play, keep him away totally if he can't play.
Well,
you know what I mean?
My thing on Kyrie is when Kyrie is hurt, when Kyrie has been hurt in some of the biggest games of his team season, he wasn't around. When the Boston Celtics had a Game 7 against Cleveland in 2018 at the Boston Garden, young Jason Tatum, young Jaylen Brown, Kyrie Irving was out for that playoffs. He was hurt, might have been a knee injury, and he could have shown up and given his team moral support in a Game 7 against a team that he just left, the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James. He didn't show up. He didn't buy a ticket. And that was with a game to go to the NBA Finals. So supporting your team, I think that rings hollow to me. If you want to say he evolved and everything else, all right, cool, whatever. Here's my thing, Chris. Two things. And everybody can say that I'm hating on Kyrie and everything else. I think Kyrie's a dazzling performer. I think Kyrie is one of the greatest talents we'll ever see. I think he might be the best dribbler of the basketball. He might be the greatest scorer at the point guard position we've ever seen, right? Best scoring package ever as far as being able to get a bucket. Don't know if I want him on my team, but he's that. Here's my point on Kyrie Irving. I don't think Kyrie Irving was following the science when he decided not to take the vaccine, right? When the numbers were the numbers, he wasn't following the science. So rock with me on this one, Chris. There was no way for Kyrie Irving to know when he said, I'm not taking the vaccine, to know that the numbers were going to go down and dwindle or whatever and that, the private sector could go through this and everything else, right? There was no way for him to know how things were going to morph from October to April, right? March, April. So for all we know, for all Kyrie Irving knew, COVID could have been raging through the country just the way it always has, and people would just have to deal with it, and numbers weren't going to get any lower. So when he took that stand on principle, he was taking the stand on principle, not knowing that the possibility of being allowed to play was going to be on the back end. If you take a stand on principle, stand on the principle, right? When you take a stand and say, I'm not doing this, I'm willing to not do this, be a voice for the voiceless, all that BS or whatever, you know what I mean? If you're going to take a stand on that, take a stand on it. Don't come and ask for an exception. You know what? It really gets to me when you ask for your humanity. You know what I mean? You ask for your humanity on, the mental health conversations, and I need to take a staycation, for 2 weeks and everything else because it's too much stuff going on, right? Give me my humanity. Me being an athlete, me being a famous person doesn't make me any less human. You are absolutely right on that, Chris. He is absolutely right on that. But you can't on the back end come back and say, well, now because I'm a fabulous basketball player and all this, I deserve an exception. You can't say it. You can't say it. Treat me like everybody else, and then want to be treated differently than anybody else on the back end of it when it suits you. And you can't say I'm standing on principle on the front end, and then say, well, allow me to stand on my principle, but nobody else is allowed to have principles on their end. It's completely inconsistent. It's complete nonsense. And I want to see Kyrie Irving play. I want to see the Eastern Conference playoffs to be the best they can possibly be. I'm on this side of the country. If Yahoo sees fit to allow me to go travel, I want to see the best games, the best series. Absolutely. But if we're talking about from the standpoint of principle, if you're willing to stand on it, then stand on it. No matter how ridiculous the inconsistency of the rule is, you said you were standing on something in October. Stand on it. And as it relates to the topic at hand, and you're talking about the Brooklyn Nets as a franchise, you're talking about Sean Marks, Steve Nash, what they built. And you're talking about, in at least one instance, Kyrie Irving, where they said, look, either Kyrie's in or he's out, right? How much of Kyrie Irving's presence is here because Kevin Durant says, hey, we need Kyrie Irving back? And if you are this franchise, what do you say when Kevin Durant comes to you and says, all right, we dropping bodies. COVID is killing us like it's killing every other team in the league. We got Kyrie Irving here and we struggling. We should be able to bring him back part-time. As an organization, do you stand on your two and say, no, Kevin, this is for the betterment of the franchise? Or do you say, Kevin, considering you kind of made the Brooklyn Nets be the Brooklyn Nets, worth a damn right at this point, we're going to acquiesce to your wishes? What was the franchise supposed to do? I'm not asking that as like a pejorative. Mm-hmm. I'm not asking that saying like leading the witness. I don't want people to think that I'm trying to lead you or lead them. I'm genuinely asking, what were the Brooklyn Nets supposed to do in that spot?
Okay. Now, we don't know if that was the scenario. Right. If KD said we got to bring. But if that was.
Right.
Play hypothetical.
Right.
Let me take you back to the other side of the coast talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's narratives that LeBron James handpicked these players. Mm-hmm. And that's not totally true. It's not. But there's a narrative out there that that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, it's not working out. And it's not working out at a historic, low, embarrassing rate. But you know, Vince, you know who's going to take the fall? It's not going to be LeBron. It's going to be the individual who signed off on it, which is the general manager. Now look, we talk, people say ultimately is an owner, but, general manager.
Mm-hmm.
General manager.
Mm-hmm.
General manager. Always up top. So players are always going to have star players, superstar players. We're going to always have the power to flex,
mm-hmm.
the power to be able to say, hey, I want such and such and whatever. But ultimately, if it doesn't pan out, the responsibility doesn't fall on the player. It falls on management. So with that being said, Vince, I get what KD, if that was the scenario, the hypothetical scenario we laid out, right? Mm-hmm. If KD did say that, management has to look at the stance. Your original stance was, we're not going to have a part-time player. It's not right. due to COVID or whatever. I can't remember exactly the wording.
But part-time player was definitely the phrase.
Part-time player. It was a noble and admirable statement, and it was built on principle. It felt like it was built on principle. And to come back and, they didn't have to get Kyrie. They could have picked up more 10-day guys and had them play full-time. They chose to go down this road. And so you went back on your so-called principles to, again, I'm not against Kyrie playing, man. Look, either let him play or keep him away from Barclays Center. Vince, before we get out of here, I got to ask you about the MVP race. There's not really I don't know if there's a clear front runner.
There isn't.
There isn't. And then even that, Vince, usually there's 5 strong candidates that most people can agree on.
I feel like that's the case.
You feel like it's 5 strong candidates?
I feel like
okay. All right. Let me tell you my 5 off the top. So,
all right.
Embiid, Joker, Ja Morant.
There's an obvious one you're forgetting. Oh,
Giannis. Do you put DeRozan in there?
With the Bulls
Has
being
he fell
fifth,
off?
I think because the team is falling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they haven't beaten the really. They falter when they beat good teams. Who's the fifth? Who's your fifth?
That is crazy because Steph has sort of risen and fallen. Chris Paul is unavailable. You know what I mean? Chris Paul being unavailable hurts his case because Phoenix is still winning. You know what I mean? And to me, those were my 4. And that's not counting the best player in the game, Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? He statistically, I don't know if he might put right up against it. 58 games is the mark that you have to play to qualify for most statistical categories. And it's kind of the mark that you got to play, to me, to really be in consideration for major awards. You know what I mean? But if we've seen the importance of Kevin Durant, I would say the 5th one is probably Luka Doncic. You know what I mean? With the strong, with the way that he's come on over the past couple of months, I feel like that Luka has entered the chat in a very strong way. I think you can make a strong case for Jokic, an MVP coming back from winning an MVP and being better than the year before. That's like Steve Nash. You know what I mean? With Phoenix, when Phoenix lost to Amari Stoudemire in year 2 of that 7 seconds or less, Phoenix went from winning 62 games to winning 54, 55. Steve Nash's numbers went up. He was the MVP and he got better. And he played with lesser teammates and he kept his team afloat. I just told you my thing about Russell Westbrook. The reason I didn't vote for him was because Oklahoma City did not win 50 games that year. I think they won 47. If Denver
Who did you vote for, Harden that year?
I voted for Harden. And considering everybody thinks I hate James Harden, I voted for him twice for MVP throughout this tenure, even though I quote-unquote hate James Harden. Whatever. I think you can put that's a great time.
Hey, it's spring break. All the kids are knocking on my door.
I didn't know if it was going. I know if it was ever was going to catch it, but I think we sleep on Giannis, even though Milwaukee is kind of struggled in really finding their consistency. Embiid has played great basketball, even though he got sort of outplayed by Jokic on the tail end of that game on what was that, Monday night. So I think there's about 3 or 4 guys who have a strong case, and with 12 games left, I'm not sure which way I'm going. And usually,
I don't know.
And usually you kind of have it. Usually you kind of know 70 games in, but at this point, I don't know.
I don't know as well, man. And that year we keep mentioning about when Westbrook got it. I have voted, it was the last 2 weeks. I was dead set at that time, 2 weeks before the end of the season, dead set on give it to Harden. And then Westbrook went on a tear and had 3 or 4 game winners, broke the triple-double record and all that stuff. And I was like, man, you know what? I think he got it. I think he got it at the tail end. It's a photo finish. I think he got it. So I gave it to him. So I don't regret giving Russ that MVP.
You should.
I think we all learned
we
something
should know
about,
better. We should have known better.
Well, we didn't know better because we never
did.
seen anything at that.
Yes, we did. We knew better because I told y'all fools. I told all y'all. Whenever somebody asked me.
Because you told us,
Russ going to average a triple-double. How you know go give him MVP? I'm like, he averaged 31, 10, and 10, right? Yeah. Would you give it to me since he's averaging 31, 9, and 9? Duh, I don't know. Then there's your answer. We talking about one rebound and one assist per game.
One rebound, one assist. You right.
Man, if you don't, sit your dumb asses down. I'm sorry to cuss, but that's just stupid. We gotta be better than that. If we talk about fraudulent MVP, if we talk about fraudulent MVPs in my lifetime, we talking about Karl Malone and what was that 97 when he stole one from Mike? We talking about. I don't think the Steve Nash MVPs were fraudulent. I don't.
Okay.
I think the Russ MVP was fraudulent.
What about the Derrick Rose? You were covering the Bulls then, so you got some bias there,
No,
Vince.
I wasn't covering the Bulls then. That's my first year covering the NBA. That was my first year as a beat writer. Now, what I will say about that year was the Bulls had the best record. Derrick Rose was the best player. I can see that.
All right.
LeBron James was the best player in the game, playing with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and they were like 6 games fewer.
All right.
In the same conference, so playing the same schedule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So even though LeBron was the best player and won 4 out of 5 MVPs, the guy who had the case that year might have been Dwight Howard in 2010-11. If we're gonna split hairs, Dwight Howard had a case in 2010 or 2011 rather to win MVP because of what he was doing on both ends of the floor. And I'm not going to disparage Derrick Rose because what he did that year was spectacular. It was spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if we're gonna talk about questionable MVPs that look funny in the light through history, yeah, you would put that in the top 5 or top 10, in our lifetime that don't necessarily stand up because of what his career didn't turn out to be through no fault of his own, through injury. But Russell Westbrook, that's number 1 on the list.
Vince, I'm going to ask you this before we go. Again, I don't know who I have right now as the front runner. Like, there is no front runner. I don't know. Like, probably the top 2 is Joker and Embiid.
Yep.
Giannis is right there. But I want to ask you this, Vince. Do you think as NBA writers, NBA scribes that we are, when we're selecting MVPs, when you're voting, right? We all think the MVPs, we all think they're going to amount to, like, they're going to continue to be great. And I'm saying that because Derrick Rose, I could be wrong. He may be the only MVP definitely in our lifetime to not make Hall of Fame. To not make the Hall of Fame. Definitely probably in our lifetime. Like, and so that's why a lot of players, I remember I was talking to a lot of players at that time, they felt like he was too young. And I think LeBron felt like he deserved it. People feel like LeBron deserved it anyways. But they were like, they said they felt like there wasn't enough body of work. And really, the body of work is the season. So, I mean, I don't get that argument, but I understand they feel like some guys got to pay their dues.
You're saying it's a culmination.
Yeah.
Usually winning the MVP is a culmination. It's a signal of something greater that you've arrived, that you've had a standard of consistency that says that this will continue to hold up as time goes on. Without that injury, there's nobody would have said that. It's not like his game fell off. And the fact that, honestly, he's a better basketball player than Russell Westbrook with all the injuries that he's had speaks to it's true. It's true. He's a better basketball.
Vince, he ain't what? Go ahead.
And he hasn't even played this year. But he's a better basketball player than Russell Westbrook.
Hold on. Let me say this, Vince. You was talking about Russ earlier on. And I wanted to interject, but I'll let you finish.
Go ahead.
How he may have lost a step. He's not athletic. No, Vince. I've watched 95% of all Laker games this season. The speed is still there. The athleticism is still there. Vince, this guy's confidence is shot. It's shot. Like, he can't shoot. I remember when Russ had a consistent mid-range jumper. It was money. I remember when the bank shot was Tim Duncan-esque. It's shot. Everything is shot. He's missing. He's getting by his defender. It's not that. He's getting by him, but he's clanking the layups. He's clanking the dunks. Like,
because you can't get up as high as you used to.
Oh,
you can't explode. I'm not saying he's not explosive. I'm saying that he's not. Think about it. He's probably the most freakish athlete to ever play the position. At 6'2", he's not 6'4".
Ja Morant would like to have a word.
He probably
with you.
will. But we're talking about body of work. But
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
But Russ is bigger, like more muscular. You know what I mean?
Now he is.
Even Russ was younger. Russ could go through
Russ
you.
Was skinny.
Yeah,
look at
young Russ. Yeah, young Russ.
I'm saying Russ.
I'm saying Russ maybe 4 or 5 years ago was a muscular. You know what I mean? At his full maturity, was a muscular player. So I do think that he's lost a little bit athletically. And unfortunately for a guy like him, for a guy like Allen Iverson, when you lose a half a step, you lose 2. For different reasons, but I do think that he's lost something. He can summon it at a given moment. At a given moment, he can summon that athleticism for one play or one stretch, like LeBron can. But LeBron can rely on being a better basketball player and not having to rely on that freakish athleticism, so that when he summons it's it's like the Super Mario Star or the Fireball or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it just enhances what you've already got, as opposed to I need to rely on this to get everything. Because if we seeing Russ rely on all of that athleticism, it ain't getting them nowhere.
Yeah, and that's what Michael Jordan had to do. He had to transform his game.
Absolutely.
And and so Russ is going to have to get to that point. I think it's more like I honestly think it's more to do with confidence than it is that lack of athleticism or anything, man. His game is Vince is very. I'm not even making jokes. Like, this is very comparable to the Monstars taking the superstars' powers in Space Jam. It's very, like, Vince, I've watched 95% of the Lakers games this season, man. He's getting by his guy. He's just, whatever. I don't want to get him, because I don't want to add, because again, this day and age, man.
He gonna hear it, and you gonna hear, yo, Chris, get over here.
I'm not trying to add to it, man. I ain't got nothing but love for Russ. I ain't got nothing but love for
Russ. Used to be my favorite player. Russ used to be my favorite player in the league because he went hard all the time. He's my wife's favorite player. He's my wife's favorite player. I remember back in, I think I said a story before, like Russ's 4th year in the league. My wife wanted a picture, and I was like, man, Russ don't really mess with us like that. I'm talking about media. So I go over there at the end of the game. Hey, Russ, man. Hey, bro. Sorry to bother you, man, but my wife would like a picture with you. He was like, man, I don't like media, but tell her, come on. Took a picture. She enjoyed herself. So I appreciate him for that, just on the human side. But yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough watching him, man. And it's tough watching his peers go at him like that too. So, I hope the brother figures it out, man. Period. So it don't look good.
It does not. It does not. So, Vince, we're gonna get what you got to do for the rest of the day, Vince.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm gonna figure it out. But tomorrow, I don't know when this podcast is going live, but I'll be hosting Sirius XM NBA Radio at from 7 to 10 Eastern tomorrow morning.
This is going live today, so this will reach. So go ahead, sir. When am I?
When are you?
Go ahead.
You'll be sleeping. You'll be sleeping, Chris.
What time is this?
7 to 10 a.m. The starting line is
Eastern
Sirius
time.
XM Eastern time. 7 to 10.
Golly.
You'll be asleep by the time I log off tomorrow and saying goodbye with Sam Mitchell, who you and I both love.
My brother, yes.
Yeah, you will be still asleep with,
yes, I will.
With snot bubbles in your nose.
I was going to ask, how come I've never got an invite to come on? I don't want a damn invite, Vince. Don't you dare do that.
I won't call you that early. I won't call you that early.
Unless it's tape.
I'll
tell you right now, brother. I'll tell you right now, you my brother, man. I will wake up for you at 5 a.m. to give you 10 minutes, man. You my dude. You my dude.
Why? Why would you do, Chris? As Precious, I'm somebody that don't sleep. So if I actually get sleep, I'm only waking up for one thing, and it ain't a dude.
Hey, I'm saying if it was a pressing time, please don't think about me off the top. Don't think about, we need a guest. Don't think about me off the top. If I'm like your 100th call, I'll do it. You know what I mean? But if you call me like, hey, man, I've called 50 people, I tell you like, well, call another 50, get back to me. You know what I'm saying? It'd be one of those situations. But on that 100th call, I got you on that 100 for sure.
In case of emergency, break open Haynes.
I got you. I got you, bro. All right, girls, everybody, guys, gals, that concludes the Post Up of Chris Haynes podcast here on Yahoo Sports with my brother Vincent Goodwill. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode because I did, I always do, and I'm doing it with my brother. So y'all take care. Have a great weekend. We'll check back with you next week. Peace out.